Hey everybody, I'm back in the car again. I've been waiting so long to make this video regarding my experience with the simulated racing at World of Racing in Pasadena. Let's get into the pros and cons and everything I thought about it. Let me start off by saying that sim racing was something completely different from what I expected it to be. I expected it to be less immersive, not as tactile as it ended up being, and in all honesty, I anticipated crashing a lot more and into other people. As you'll see in some of the clips that I include in this video, as well as the full race that I did, or all of the images of me, I guess, in that race, everybody else was worlds ahead of me in the lap. But if you go right here, navigate to this video, you can see my full race and all my clips and edits there for my experience with simulator racing. And it should be up right now. Now, with that being done, let me go ahead and go into all the pros about sim racing. First of all, not wildly expensive for the competition I did, because I came in on tournament racing night. It was about under 150, I believe 120, 130, but it could vary from there. I live in Southern California. It wasn't exceptionally far, maybe an hour, but with cost of gas included, about 150. Not a bad barrier to entry to be able to actually fully experience everything they had to offer. And I was able to be given one of the big monitors, all around sets that they had there, complete with bucket seat, accurate race steering wheel, full controls over the vehicle. You can control suspension, brake sensitivity, throttle response. You could go from automatic to manual with paddle shifters. And while driving in and around through this track, you could also feel the body roll through the rig itself. With simulated suspension throughout, it kind of reminds me of that simulator that you saw in Cars 3 that Lightning McQueen crashed into.
You have jumped a barrier.
Now, I wasn't as experienced as a racer as Lightning is, but I like to think I did okay.
You sure about that? You sure about that? You sure about that?
I had an awesome time. Sim racing is something of a sport in itself, like kind of similar to something like sim golf or things like that, where you could hone your skills, practice different moves, practice different skill sets, practice different tips and tricks. Obviously, they're not going to really accurately simulate everything that's going to happen when you're on a track, similar to other simulators like a golf simulator or whatever else. But the intense accuracy of what it feels like to actually be behind the wheel and have to calculate those turns, the braking, the track itself, memorizing, qualifying in a lap, going into the race. I've never been in a real race myself or on a real track. I hope to one day, and I hope to on this channel be able to take us to a place where we can get out there, get on the track, take different cars, have amazing experiences, showing off those cars and showing off those experiences for people who maybe won't ever really get to experience that. But I was privileged enough to be able to go and experience that here, and anyone who has, like I said, that $100 plus to go ahead and experience that at World of Racing in Pasadena in California, I would say to go ahead and do it. They have individual classes there. This is not a sponsorship. They have not connected with me about it. Even when I recorded, I just recorded my video and I went home. I didn't try to get with anything with them about it. But this is my personal recommendation, my personal endorsement of World of Racing. And what I hope to go back and do is take part in their training. They have training, they have classes there that allow you to actually fully realize, oh, okay, this is how I kind of master that simulator. And there's going to be a learning curve directly if you're going onto the track versus a simulator, and that's something I hope to take advantage of, and that's something I hope to do in the future to kind of show you guys maybe that difference as well, because now I have a full kind of grasp and understanding of what it definitely feels like to be behind the simulator. I know the differences of driving a car, just not on a track. And leading into the cons of that of course the simulator is not going to be completely 100% accurate. It's not going to be a one-to-one of what it's like to actually be out and about in the car on the day, being on the racetrack. Number one, there's a huge air of safety. I'm putting that in the cons only because of the fact that you can get lost in the fact that you are not in control of a car. You are in control of a game, basically, of a computerized vehicle. So if you're like me and you're less experienced, or pretty much anyone else who's never raced on a track before, you can get lulled in this false sense of safety and security and not treat the car with as much respect as you should. I'll definitely say there were moments in my race and moments at my time, either my qualifying lap or my practice laps, where I wasn't as respectful of the car as I should have been because it's not a real car. Now that is on me and that is a fault of mine. But I could see how people can take that and be unsafe on the track because the fact they believe that, oh, well, I've simulated, I've done all the simulations, I've driven in Gran Turismo a bunch of time, I'm gonna be like that guy from that Gran Turismo movie.
Looking good, Jan. Smooth as fast.
It's like there's such a huge disconnect between that and that. Obviously, more avid professionals and, you know, formula drivers, kit car drivers, circuit drivers, rally drivers, all these different people can obviously like take that proper mindset into a simulation as opposed to being on the real world track. Me, again, not having that experience on a real world track, I can't really take that experience, the one that I haven't had. Piggybacking off the effect of safety, off of respecting the car, so on, is that you can't feel the car, right? And I know to some people that might not make a lot of sense, but if you drive a lot and you like driving and you love driving cars and you love driving, you love motorsports, those different things, you can feel the car, right? Not just the bumps, not just the potholes in the road, but you can feel the car. You can feel when tires slip. You can feel when there's oversteering, when there's understeering. You can feel hefty body roll. There's not enough body roll, so you're actually you're understeering already. In the fact of that the weight of the vehicle is different from other vehicles you've driven, right? There's all these different factors that go into operating a vehicle that you have to feel the car because, especially for me, I'm in this Porsche circuit. I've never driven a Porsche before. I've never driven a 911 Carrera before, or 911 GT3 RS, I believe is what was the circuit they were in. I think it was a 911 GT or 911 GT3 was the circuit they were performing, the circuit that they were racing in. And I've never driven that car before. So driving that car versus, let's say, driving a track spec'd out E30 N3, right, with a sequential transmission, like that would be different from operating this Porsche. It's going to be lighter, it's going to be underpowered, it's going to be, or not underpowered, but it's going to have less power. And it's going to operate different, move different, swing different. It's going to roll different. It's going to take corners differently. It's going to have different tires on it exceptionally because there's a different tire, there's a different wheel pattern, there's different fitment on that vehicle, right? All these elements, different brakes, right? Way bigger brakes in a Porsche than on a BMW. So there's going to be all these minute factors that you will feel in the vehicle. And then even in this car, right, when you're slamming on the brakes, there is like a racing pedal, racing brake that require way more force to operate. So cars with more force, or I guess pounds of force to operate the accelerator or operate the decelerator, operate the brake. And I believe that requires being able to feel that when actually driving a car. Operating paddle shifters in a real gas car, just like this Porsche in real life, I would be able to feel the shifting and the gearing by just operating the vehicle. And after you've driven enough manual cars, you've driven enough cars needing to shift the vehicle, whether it's paddle shifters or otherwise, you know and feel when to actually shift the vehicle. That's not something you can actually feel behind the simulator. You have to rely on gauges, RPM, which sometimes are not always what you need to go off, depending on how fast you're deaccelerating, how fast are you accelerating, how fast do you need to change gears, how long are the gears, and the list could go on and on and on. Aside from that, very minor cons behind the simulator racing, and I think that if you're somebody who wants to get into racing, somebody who wants to see what it feels to get behind the wheel, see what it feels to just not go to a takeover and break someone's kneecaps and strip them of their underwear with the rubber on your tire, then you should definitely go to World of Racing because it's safe, it's inexpensive, and honestly, it's a great time. Take your friends, make an experience out of it, make it something that you're like, you know what, maybe I'll never be able to race on a track. This channel might not ever grow to the ability for me to be able to get on the track myself, take cars that I've always dreamed about driving, operate vehicles that I've always dreamed about being able to take them and push them to their limits and to see if I even have what it takes to operate on a level like that. I've always wanted to race. I've always wanted to race for a living. But unfortunately, those aren't the cards I was dealt. But I can get on here and I can talk to you guys about it and get you excited about sim racing, which is something that a lot of us will be able to get into, which a lot of us can be able to do for not very much money. For me, what an experience, simulator racing. It was great. It inspires me to actually get better, even on a simulator, to eventually hone enough skills to take to the track, to be able to translate it into real life. Obviously, not directly, but I got to take baby steps to get there, right? Just like with anything else, it takes, what's the saying, 10,000 hours to get good at something? Well, I put in 3 hours at the sim racing, so I'm only, less than 1% of the way there, but hey, we all got to start somewhere. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.